All right. Oh. So, after that gigantic stream yesterday, had some rest, and we are talking about Marvel Kombat, right? Because we've been seeing this for a while. I have absolutely been seeing this for a while, and I'm just using a couple of these people from X because they put it together really well, right? Over here with Mortal Kombat Addict, it says I like the new MK1 trailer, but they hit that Marvel playbook a little too hard, right? So we got the Captain America reference there, because originally, like, it was World War II Johnny. We knew there was a leak covering that there was going to be a World War II Johnny skin, but it wasn't just World War II. They had to put that in there as well. Like, it's starting to get a little bit too on the nose. Now, the middle one, right, where Sub-Zero is leaping through the portal, yeah, obviously Deadpool and Wolverine did it. No, obviously this is probably done before the movie came out, but we've also sort of seen that in previous Marvel stuff with leaping that way, right? So it's not the strongest case. But one of the biggest ones is obviously the Iron Man one, right? Like, they have just... I understand, right, that, like, Mortal Kombat for a long time has pulled from bits and pieces of different whatnot of pop culture, right? But just because they put pop culture in a game doesn't mean to say that the game is suddenly amazing or great, right? It is clearly obvious that they have been trying to copy Marvel, you know, and try and have okay, so Johnny Cage, for an example, right? If you go back and play the earlier 2D games, right, and even in the movie, right, so Johnny Cage, you know, might have a couple of little funny lines, but he wasn't in there, like, making constant quips, constantly running jokes. He was actually a serious character. The character of Johnny Cage was all about trying to prove that the martial arts he was doing on screen was actually him and not special effects. So by him joining the tournament, he was actually going to prove to the world that yes, he is the real deal. That's his entire thing. And then NRS, you know, got hold of it. And then suddenly they just start turning him into, you know, oh, he needs to start making jokes. I think in MK9, I'd have to replay the story, I think he'd sort of make, like, you know, a couple of sexy jokes to all the women or whatever, but I'd have to go back and check, but it was nowhere near as much as what we got in the true NRS era post MK9, right? And then over here, we have, by Cyborg at Nethercast, he goes, after thinking on the Mortal Kombat 1 expansion more, it feels very clear, if it hadn't already, MK has gone from martial arts, mysticism, and magic inspiration to MCU and money inspiration. It looks and feels and sounds like the MCU with a Mortal Kombat overlay. I couldn't have said it better myself. Right? They had literally, like, all the Kangs in, like, the kind of like a Coliseum type thing, and then they literally copy it with Havoc. Right? And then if we go back to this one, it just adds more to it. Right? We see the behaviors. Like, even like Kung Lao, anyone that remembers, like, Kung Lao wasn't some joke side character to Liu Kang. Kung Lao was like he was the more dedicated, more serious member, right, of the White Lotus Society. Okay? And if you go back and you read the comics, you see the earlier games, you know, he was just always this, you know, just this very devout, you know, monk warrior, if you will. Okay. And, you know, I think wanting to prove that, you know, he could be great again, like the great Kung Lao, right? So that was part of him. And then what do? They just start turning him into a stupid sidekick character, right? All making jokes and, you know, stuff like that. And then, of course, we've spoken lots about this, right? How we ended up with essentially them starting to copy a lot of Wakanda, right? Now, I've had discussions about this. The fact that, like, Outworld is supposed to be this alien realm. Not saying they look like actual, like, three-legged greeny aliens, right? But there was its own actual style its own unique look. And when you look at Outworld now, especially when they started changing it in MK9, where they're like, oh, we're going to start bringing in a whole lot of sand and make it all Middle Eastern. Why? This is Outworld. It's an alien realm. It's not supposed to mimic Earthrealm at all. Outworld is not the refugee camp for people from Earthrealm. It's not a holiday home. It's not a nice place to retire. It is simply just an alien realm, right? That most people don't, well, if not all people almost, don't even know about, except for obviously a select few of warriors. So, I said this yesterday, my perfect katana was actually the movie katana, right? There's this elegance, there's this royal feel, like Talisa Soto just nailed it, like she absolutely nailed katana, right? I think she was the best, like, sort of representation of katana, right? Amazing. Absolutely amazing, right? And the reason why people get upset when I talk about things like change and stuff is because this is what Mortal Kombat does. Now, I've actually seen people defend this. They go, oh, well, this is what they do. This is what NetherRealm does. They just do this. It's like that's the excuse. Like, they're allowed to. Like, that's just somehow makes it okay. It doesn't make it okay. Every other fighting game, we're not wondering whether or not Ryu's suddenly going to become a different race, from being Japanese. We're not wondering if he's going to suddenly turn into a female, because other fighting game franchises actually respect their lore and their legacy, right? And Cyborg is 100% accurate with this. It was always about the martial arts, because the martial arts was the central focus of why it was important for the Mortal Kombat tournament to exist, right? When we got into NetherRealm, it started getting all special forces and crap like that, and yeah, the special forces were always in there, but they weren't the sole focus. It was more about the martial arts, it was more about Liu Kang and him being the chosen one and whatnot. And it's all gone away because we know the writer is a huge lefty, right? And you can just see it permeate everything from all the way from MK10 all the way up to now. This massive permeation of this sort of slow infection of, either lefty ideology, DI crap, and now, of course, massive amounts of Phase 4 type garbage from Marvel, right? And Cyborg says, follow up, he goes, if you started this series with the NRS era, especially MK11 and MK1, you may not notice the major shift in tone or feel. Pre-MCU, it was a very different then, and it has been over the past decade. MK11 really drove us here, and MK1 doubled down. Yeah, well, I would start with the changes with MK10, where it was starting to be heavily special forces and, just changes to certain characters and the way they were. Hell, we even had, like, people talk about, this new timeline. Oh, there's a new timeline. Everything's going to be different. Bro, they've retconned stuff in its own timeline, like Sindel as the most grievous example. Terrible, thing that happened to Sindel on retconning her in her own timeline, making out this whole time she wasn't under Shao Kahn's control or whatever it was. It was just simply, oh yeah, she just wanted power and she hated King Jared or some bullshit like that, right? Talk about massive amounts of disrespect to characters that have been around for a very long time in a lore that you are asking people to pay money for, right? That's why it matters, right? Because we have invested money into paying for these products, paying for these experiences like we do with all entertainment. And yeah, you have the right to change shit, but you also don't have the right to say to us, or think it at the very least, well, you just need to accept change. It's just how it is. It's just how they are. Shinox here, he's great also. He says, I really struggle with these last few games. I'm finding it harder and harder to find things to be positive about without sounding like a hater. Don't worry about sounding like a hater, bro. Right? I get that shit all the time, and I'll tell you what, man, it doesn't bother me. Because at the end of the day, I am being who I am. You be you who you are, right? You love Mortal Kombat, but you love old Mortal Kombat. And if we're going to be real here, we pretty much love Tobias Mortal Kombat, right? Let's be real here. It was the biggest chunk of Mortal Kombat games that we got to, right? We went from MK1 all the way up to MK Gold, including, and I'm pretty sure Tobias was around then, MK Mythologies, right? as well. So we got this really incredible, brilliant start to the Mortal Kombat franchise. And then as soon as Tobias left, right, outside of Shaolin Monks, I have to check the timeline on that. Right, Shaolin Monks was great. Under the sole guidance of Ed Boon, that's when I noticed things starting to change. He changed, the major thing for me personally was the combat. He created Tekken. He brought in this new combat system from Tekken, well not new, but combat system from Tekken, new into Mortal Kombat, where you can do combos without touching the other person, you know, like the dialer combos, right? And it stuck around. It's one of the things I never liked about MK9, one of the very few things, and I hate it, right? I've always been of the opinion that when you're doing a combo, you don't just start, like, you know, they want to talk about realism, not showing up in a fight in a bikini. Well, nobody's going to start 2 meters away and start punching and kicking, right? I don't like that. Like, to me, the only time you can do that is you're literally right on top of each other, and the you know, the program recognizes that you are, and it allows you to do that, right? Otherwise, you end up with the hodgepodge that we have now, where I'm literally seeing attacks not even connect. You can see it on screen. I had this dude, you know, I was fighting against Smoke the other night, this dude, and some of his kicks, I don't know how he does like that flippy, like that, like double tap kick, I think it is. One of the kicks doesn't even connect in the combo that he was doing. I'm watching it. It's literally just, there's this much gap between me and the character, right? But because the AI, like not the AI, but the hitboxes and the coding and whatnot still goes, oh, you're still being hit even though visually you're not. Like, it's just, it takes you right out of the game. He says since MK9, every game has come after that has slowly shifted away from what makes MK MK, right? Death Cold Long Plays UA says, right, I noticed it long ago. Since MK11 days, MK simply turned into a shitty live service game with only one goal, to make money instead of putting entertainment in front first. And that sucks, man. They just copy pasting Marvel instead of making their own stuff, right? I've said it before, just to finalize, that the best, that what they should have done with Mortal Kombat 1 is not call it Mortal Kombat 1. They should have called it Mortal Kombat New Era. They should have called it Mortal Kombat 0. Mortal Kombat A New Beginning. And go all the way back, pre-Mortal Kombat tournament, and show us how everything started. I mean, how the Shirai, oh, well, no, maybe not so much them, obvious. Well, actually, I don't know, depending on the timeline, but yeah, anyway, how the Lin Kuei formed, you know, and keep in mind, this is ancient times, so we're not going to see special forces. This is literally going to be an ancient martial art game. We are going to see the training and the building of the Great Kung Lao. You might even have characters that could have survived since back then, like Sing and Sang Siang from the comic book series. Could have had Hydro show up. We could have seen this incredible ground zero story on the complete and utter telling of how Mortal Kombat, the tournament that prevents an entire alien realm from invading Earthrealm, came to be. And why that? Why specifically that? What is it about just mortal people fighting is enough to defend that, right? That would have been insane. We would have had a whole bunch of new characters, which would have been amazing, adding to the already amazing roster of characters we have in the MK universe. But no. Why do I say that? Because if you look at Liu Kang's ending in MK11, what is it? I mean, correct me if I'm wrong, but it looks like he's going to see essentially what would have been the original Great Kung Lao. And we didn't get it. And that's a travesty of biblical proportions. Anyway, guys, catch you next time.